As a novice Transformers collector, when I was first shopping around for my first batch of toys to review, one brand that kept coming up on my radar was Weijiang, a Chinese company who were known for their oversized third-party KO Transformers figures. I use were in the past tense because according to this news article, the company Weijiang was shut down by a police raid that was allegedly instigated by the China subsidiary of Hasbro, so their toy production is effectively dead for the foreseeable future. Still, browsing around on the internet, there are still stocks of some of their older models, and I was able to get my hands on one thanks to a local importer. And 2 months later, here we are reviewing the Weijiang Legendary Warrior M06, aka Oversized Studio Series 07 Grimlock. I can't help but feel the irony of purchasing what is essentially an oversized dinosaur from a company that has been effectively pushed into the age of extinction. Holding the figure in hand, he's mostly made out of hard, durable plastic. The parts of the figure that look sharp are actually made out of bendy plastic, like the teeth, the horns, as well as the spikes on his knee, and the skirt on the back of his waist. Out of the box, he is a chunky figure, coming in at 34 cm tall when fully extended, and he tops the scale at 930 grams, which is quite heavy for a figure of this size. With the exception of the front toe, his feet are made out of die-cast metal, which helps to anchor the figure. There is excellent detail in his Dinobot head, where you can make out additional detail in the eyes, as well as an excellent head sculpt that looks like layered metal, which gives this a true sense of being a heavily armored beast. The Dino head on the left is actually a fake one that folds down during the transformation, and you can tell that by the presence of this hinge here. I'm not a fan of his robot mode head. While it has a lot of detail as well, and his lower jaw can actually extend downward, it looks too much like a grinning skull, whereas I recall the movie version of Grimlock has more of an angular look on his face, with a mouth that resembles that of the Turian race from Mass Effect. So that kind of a look is missing here, which is a shame. The robot head eyes can light up if you push a button located at the back. Weijiang provides batteries with each figure, and to install it in the robot head, you simply unscrew a screw located at the back of the head, pull the head apart and expose the battery compartment. The eyes on the Dino head can also light up, and you can install batteries in the head by lifting it up and away from the shoulder, unscrewing the screw located on the underside of the mouth, and accessing the battery compartment there. I like the additional detail that Weijiang have added to the figure by picking out some of the piping on his torso, joints and waistcoats in bronze and gold accents, which I feel really brings out the rusted effect that you would expect to see on a robot that survived thousands of years in hibernation. I do have a major issue with the overall aesthetics of the figure, and that's in the dry brush paint job. You see, Grimlock in the movies has almost a jade green sheen on his exoskeletal armor plates that are distinct from his inner frame. Perhaps Weijiang couldn't source the right type of colored plastic or paint to achieve that movie look, but what they've done here as an alternative is they've used dark grey in the construction for the most part, and then have given the figure a dry brush application in a dark teal color. While this sounds like a good idea on paper, I did find the colors to be a little too dull and rather uneven in their application. For instance, the robot head used in the transformation actually gets less of a dry brush than the unused one on the left, which is just baffling to me. Let's move on to talk about articulation. It's below average. The head can look diagonally left and right, down but not up. The arms have a nice clicky ratchet joint, but can only rotate about 120 degrees in either direction due to the presence of the shoulders that block their movement. You can see that his arms are curved outwards due to slight clearance issues with his waistcoats. You get rotation at the bicep, a 90-degree bend on the left arm, but less on the right arm due to the Dino hands getting in the way, rotation at the wrist. He only has 3 fingers, of which one is individually articulated and the other 2 form one piece that articulates as well. Unfortunately, his thumb is fixed in place, so don't even try to bend it. You get a full waist swivel, which is good on a figure of this size. His leg articulation is good if you lift his skirts out of the way, Unfortunately, the ratchet joints are too weak on this figure, so his legs actually can't stay in place if you lift it up all the way horizontally. You get full rotation at the thigh and double ratchets at the knee, which is used during his transformation to form his Dinobot legs. Unfortunately, the ratchets here are again too weak and can come apart if you shake the figure hard enough, which makes me not want to put him in poses where his legs aren't fully straightened. In terms of accessories, I feel that Weijiang have absolutely knocked it out of the park here. Let's get the most interesting one out of the way first. Grimlock comes with a minifigure of AOE Optimus Prime, which measures approximately 12 cm in height and serves as a great scale comparison to show just how much Grimlock dwarfed Optimus in the movie. Looking in close, there's a lot of nice mechanical detail on his torso, shoulders and legs, and it would have been a great extra in and of itself if it was a static piece. But no, Weijiang have gone the extra mile here and made this a fully articulated figure. His head is on a ball joint and can look around freely. His arms can be rotated 360 degrees and lift up to the sides with his shoulder joints actually moving up slightly to accommodate the stretch. He even gets full rotation at the bicep and a 90-degree bend at the elbow, as well as full wrist rotation. You also get a full waist swivel, a full spread of the legs, full rotation of the thighs, a 90-degree bend of the knee, as well as an ankle pivot. His face sculpt does look a bit evil, but I can look past that easily. As if that wasn't enough, Weijiang have even packed in a miniature version of his Sword of Judgment as well as his Vector Shield from the movie. His sword can be slotted into his closed hand like so, and his Vector Shield just pegs into a port on the side of his arm. And here you have a fully articulated, fully posable minifigure of Optimus Prime. I've seen official Hasbro figures that are less articulated and more bare bones than what we're getting with this, and Hasbro would have probably packaged this as a $20 optional extra, but you get it included in this box for free, which is just insane value in my opinion. Now moving on to Grimlock's weapons. He comes with a spike ball on a chain comprised of 5 articulation points that can be tapped into a slot on his hand. You can adjust the angle of the chain so that it looks like the spike ball is about to come crashing down on a puny Autobot. He also comes with a giant polearm as his main weapon. The lower rod can extend out like an umbrella and is collapsed into its shortened form when used to form Grimlock's tail in its alt mode. It's puzzling that this weapon has a tab that looks like it can fit into the slot in Grimlock's hand, but there's no way to actually get it into that slot because the fixed thumb is in the way and there's no clearance to get the rod in place. His fingers are also too weak to hold on to the polearm, so I either pose it with him vertically or down into the side like a Dynasty Warriors character. Moving on to transformation. The figure comes with an instruction manual in booklet form with both English and Chinese instructions to transform Grimlock into his alt mode. Transforming Grimlock was relatively simple and I could get the process down to about 5 minutes with practice. There are a couple of areas where using a separator tool can be very helpful, such as the start where you need to open the compartment that houses the head, and a follow-on step where you need to split the 2 halves of the fake Dino head. A couple of things to note are that before you close up the top and bottom half of Grimlock's jaw, you'll need to select a tongue piece, attach it to this base here, and then clip it to the back of his mouth like shown. You'll also need to do a little bit of parts forming with the polearm by collapsing it like shown, and then folding in the blades of the weapon inward to form the tail like so. The tail pegs into a hole at the back of the arm, which can then be covered up with the skirt. And here we have Grimlock in his glorious Dinobot form with the light up effect from his LED in his head. He's now a bit lower to the ground due to his T-Rex knee bend, but a lot longer in length due to the polearm giving him that long tail. The robot mode head is now concealed under a very nice metal rib cage, and the armor plated look really pops, especially on the neck and on the Dinobot head. You can still see some oddities in the design sticking out, like the right arm that's clearly visible under the head, or the gap that exists between the shoulder and the waist skirt, but that's only if you look close. His tail looks alright I guess, but it doesn't really articulate at all, and it ends in this piece that kind of reminds me of a shrimp's tail. Articulation in this mode is still below average. The entire body feels a bit like a seesaw, thanks to the fact that the tail is fixed and doesn't articulate. The legs can be placed slightly forward or backward relative to each other thanks to the use of those double hinges. Thanks to the use of the shoulder ratchets, the head can rotate from side to side, and you also get some nice T-Rex arms that can move up and down and out to the side. I love how well the minifigure of Optimus is integrated into Grimlock's alt mode. He comes with a notch shaped like the letter H on the underside of his waist, which can tab into Grimlock's back like so. And there you have it, the awesome combined figure of Optimus riding Grimlock into battle to defend his family or die. I have to say the two of them look so good together, like a literal knight on a metal T-Rex, and you can even swap out the tongue in Grimlock's mouth for the flame breath effect that comes with the accessories, and at the same time switch on the LEDs in his eyes to give just that additional dash of movie likeness. If there was one thing that I feel could have been improved on this figure, it was if Weijiang had somehow been able to add some sort of LED functionality within the mouthpiece or the flame effect, to give the impression that Grimlock is actually breathing a ball of fire out of his mouth. But that's just nitpicking on my part. I still think this effect turned out pretty well. Overall, my opinion on the Weijiang legendary warrior Grimlock is mixed. I feel that his robot mode has a lot of shortcomings. The head sculpt isn't very accurate, the dry brushing effect isn't executed very well in my opinion, and only serves to highlight the mass-produced nature of the figure. The redesigned polearm in my opinion looks worse than the spiked club the movie version carried, and it can't even tab into his hand. His fingers are articulated as well, but they are too weak to hold the weapon up without some cheating involved. Aside from that, he's also lacking in some lower body stability thanks to the weak resistance offered by the ratchet joints at the hip and the knees. However, all this is compensated for by a fantastic Dinobot alt mode that looks like it was ripped straight out of the movie screen. The stability also improves thanks to the fact that the legs are now further apart and lower to the ground. The inclusion of that highly detailed and posable Optimus Prime is just so great as well, and if you're going to keep Grimlock mainly in its alt mode, then I can easily recommend the Weijiang version just to be able to show Optimus riding into glorious battle with Grimlock, obliterating the opposition with his fire breath. And that ought to do it for this review. If you can leave a like and subscribe, that would really help the channel out, and do let me know your thoughts on this figure or any others you'd like me to review in the future. Take care and I'll see you guys next time.